Locked away in private collections and museum vaults are the rarest rifles of the American frontier. Long guns that shaped battles, fed nations, and vanished for over a century before resurfacing with million-dollar price tags. These weren't hunting pieces or Hollywood props. They were hand-built prototypes, presentation masterpieces, and hard-used frontier survivors that tell the true story of how the West was won, one shot at a time. One was forged for a Civil War officer and rediscovered in a barn 100 years later. Another was a Winchester so rare it bore a secret inscription from the factory itself. And one, the first Henry rifle ever made, changed firearms history forever when it crossed the auction block for over $1.2 million. This is the countdown of the 12 rarest Wild West rifles ever found, ranked by their documented sale price, their craftsmanship, and the legends that make them priceless. The further we go, the rarer, stranger, and more unbelievable these rifles become. Let's begin with number 12. Number 12, the Remington Rolling Block Presentation Rifle. After the Civil War, America's gunsmiths turned from survival to perfection, and no design captured that shift better than the Remington Rolling Block. Its breech rolled open with a single motion, simple and indestructible, a rifle built to last centuries. Most were issued to soldiers and sharpshooters, but a few were made for something far rarer: presentation. These weren't tools of war. They were symbols, hand-engraved showpieces built for generals, diplomats, and kings. Each was finished in Ilion, New York, with silver inlay, scroll engraving, and polished walnut that gleamed like glass. Only a handful were ever made. One of them resurfaced at Rock Island Auction in 2017, a factory-engraved, velvet-cased rolling block in near-mint condition. The hammer fell at $195,500, setting a record for the model and proving that even a rifle built for war could become a masterpiece. The rolling block stands at the crossroads of utility and art, a weapon that outlived empires and still bears the marks of hands that refuse to settle for ordinary steel. And if you think that's rare, wait until you see the rifle smuggled through Union blockades and carried by Confederate sharpshooters. Number 11, the Whitworth Confederate Sniper Rifle. During the American Civil War, long before the word sniper became common, one rifle earned a reputation that bordered on myth: the Whitworth. Built in England by Sir Joseph Whitworth, it used a hexagonal bore barrel and mechanically fitted bullets that could hit a target at nearly 1,000 yards, twice the range of any musket on the field. The Confederacy imported fewer than 5,000 of them, smuggling the crates through Union blockades and issuing them to elite marksmen known as Whitworth sharpshooters. These rifles were beautifully made: blued steel barrels, fine walnut stocks, and precision-machined actions that set a new standard for accuracy. One Confederate officer called it the rifle that could pick off a general from a mile away, and at times it did. One documented Whitworth used in combat and later captured resurfaced at auction in 2012. It sold for $300,000, its price driven not by decoration but by battlefield provenance: dents, powder stains, and the faint Confederate J.S. Scheer anchor stamp still visible on the stock. Most Whitworths were destroyed, lost, or stripped for parts after the war. This survivor is more than a weapon. It's a relic of a vanished era of precision, the moment industrial engineering met the chaos of the battlefield. Number 10, President Lincoln Spencer Repeating Rifle. Long before repeating rifles filled the frontier, one man saw their potential to change the world: President Abraham Lincoln. In 1863, while the Civil War raged, Lincoln personally tested a new invention on the White House lawn: the Spencer Repeating Rifle. It fired 7 metallic cartridges from a tubular magazine in the stock, faster than any muzzle loader on Earth. Lincoln was so impressed that he ordered the War Department to adopt it immediately. But there was one Spencer unlike any other, the presentation model built specifically for him. It bore exquisite engraving, a gold-inlaid A. Lincoln plaque, and the mark of its inventor, Christopher Spencer. It never saw combat. It was a gift, a symbol of innovation at the exact moment America's fate hung in the balance. That rifle resurfaced at Rock Island Auction in 2013, documented by period correspondence and factory records. The hammer fell at $345,000, a staggering price for a weapon that fired only once in history, during the president's own demonstration. The Spencer rifle changed warfare forever, giving soldiers the firepower of 7 muskets in one. But Lincoln's example stands apart, not as a weapon of war, but as the rifle that helped win one. And if you think a president's rifle is priceless, wait until you see the gun that fed an entire nation and made legends out of the men who carried it. Number 9. The Sharps Model, 1874, Big 50. In the 1870s, as the frontier pushed west and the great buffalo herds began to vanish, one rifle came to define the era of the Plains hunter, the Sharps Model, 1874. It was heavy, deliberate, and devastatingly accurate, built for the men who made their living one shot at a time. The most feared version of all was chambered in 50-90 Sharps, known simply as the Big 50. This rifle wasn't a repeater. It didn't need to be. In the hands of an expert, it could drop a buffalo at half a mile, its 600-grain bullet striking with the force of a sledgehammer. Each one was hand-fitted in Hartford, Connecticut, and tuned for precision rather than speed. Fewer than 10,000 were produced, and very few of the big-bore models survived the hard years of the buffalo trade. One pristine example, a factory-documented Big 50 sporting rifle with deluxe wood and set trigger, sold in a private sale for $475,000. Not because it was beautiful, but because it was first, the weapon that ended an era. To hold a Sharps Big 50 is to hold the moment when the West changed forever, when industrial precision met the raw edge of the frontier. And if you think a hunter's rifle could fetch nearly $500,000, wait until you see the one that belonged to the cavalrymen who carried the last of the war westward. Number 8. The 7th Cavalry Spencer Carbine. Before the Winchester repeaters ruled the frontier, there was one rifle that proved repeating firepower could win wars, the Spencer Carbine. Issued in the closing years of the Civil War, it was a 7-shot lever-operated repeater that gave the Union cavalry an almost unfair advantage. By the 1870s, many of those same carbines were carried west by soldiers who would form the U.S. 7th Cavalry, the regiment that rode under George Armstrong Custer. The Spencer was compact, reliable, and brutally effective, able to fire 7 metallic cartridges in seconds while the enemy was still reloading a single shot. It became the defining weapon of the cavalrymen who fought on horseback across the plains. Most were battered to pieces through years of service, but a handful of military-marked examples survived, their stocks branded U.S., and their serial numbers traced directly to Custer's command. One of these, documented 7th Cavalry Spencers, still bearing its unit markings and original finish, surfaced in a private collection valued at over $500,000. Its worth comes not from engraving or decoration, but from the history it carries. A rifle that rode into the heart of the frontier and came back a survivor. The Spencer Carbine marks the turning point between black powder and industrial warfare, the moment repeating fire left the battlefield and entered legend. Number 7. The Colt Burgess Lever-Action Rifle. Before Winchester became the undisputed king of lever guns, Colt tried to steal the crown. In 1883, they unveiled the Colt Burgess rifle, a sleek, side-ejecting lever action designed by inventor Andrew Burgess, one of the sharpest minds in 19th century firearms. It was strong, smooth, and remarkably fast. A weapon built to prove that Hartford could out-engineer New Haven. The Burgess was elegant yet overbuilt, its steel receiver hand-fitted and its walnut stock checkered by craftsmen rather than machines. It handled like a Winchester 1873, but locked with a unique cam system that made it lighter and tighter. In skilled hands, it could fire 7 rounds in seconds, and it quickly gained a cult following among scouts, hunters, and lawmen. But its reign was brief. Only about 6,400 rifles and carbines were produced before Colt abruptly ended production in 1885. Legend says there was a quiet gentleman's agreement between Colt and Winchester. Colt would abandon rifles if Winchester stayed out of revolvers. Whatever the truth, that handshake turned the Burgess into an instant rarity. When a near-mint example surfaced at Rock Island auction in 2020, the hammer fell at $385,000, a record for a model barely 2 years old in its own time. The Burgess stands as Colt's lost experiment, a rifle that almost rewrote firearms history. Number 6. The Henry Rifle, Civil War Presentation Model. In 1860, America's rifle revolution began with one design, the Henry repeating rifle. It was the first lever-action firearm to use self-contained metallic cartridges capable of 15 shots without reloading, a staggering edge in a world still ruled by powder and percussion caps. Union soldiers who could afford them carried Henrys into battle, calling them that damned Yankee rifle you load on Sunday and shoot all week. Among them, one stood apart, a factory-engraved presentation model built for a Union officer who had distinguished himself in the field. Its receiver was silver-plated and scroll-engraved by hand, the barrel polished deep blue, the walnut stock inlaid with a personal inscription. Crafted by the New Haven Arms Company, it was equal parts weapon and masterpiece. When that same rifle surfaced at Rock Island auction in 2019, the hammer fell at $603,750, a record for a Civil War-era Henry. Every flourish on its frame tells a different story. Invention, victory, and a country learning that industry could win wars as surely as courage. If you could display just one of these rifles, the battlefield survivor or the officer's engraved masterpiece, which would you choose? Tell me in the comments below. The Henry presentation rifle isn't rare because of gold or fame. It's rare because it marks the moment America discovered repeating firepower and never looked back. Number 5. The Winchester Model, 1873, one of 1,000. By the 1870s, Winchester rifles weren't just frontier tools, they were national symbols. Among them, none carried more prestige than the Model 1873, one of 1,000. Each was a factory-selected masterpiece, hand-finished from the best shooting barrels and engraved to order for the wealthiest sportsmen and showmen of the age. While tens of thousands of standard 73s, armed settlers and scouts, only about 136 one of 1,000 rifles ever left the factory. Every surface was custom polished, every screw fire-blued, the receiver sometimes nickel-plated or gold inlaid. They were the rifles Colt's financiers carried when they wanted to show success in steel. One of the finest examples appeared at Rock Island auction in 2018, a documented deluxe rifle with case-hardened receiver, factory engraving, and original finish. It brought $977,500, nearly $1 million for a gun that once sold for just over $100. Its perfection wasn't necessity, it was theater, proof that precision could be luxury. Collectors see in the 73 the same message the 1849 pocket once sent from Hartford, that craftsmanship itself could confer power. While soldiers fought with plain carbines, the men who ran the railroads and funded the frontier carried this, a rifle built to be admired as much as fired. If you had the chance to fire a single round from one of these one of 1,000 Winchesters, would you risk devaluing history or pull the trigger just once? Number 4. The Winchester Model, 1866, one of 1,000. After the Henry came refinement, and from that evolution emerged the Winchester Model, 1866. It was the first rifle to bear the Winchester name, its brass frame earning it the nickname Yellow Boy. Reliable, elegant, and perfectly balanced, it became the defining firearm of the Reconstruction-era West. Among all 1866s, a handful rose far above the rest, the one of 1,000 rifles, hand-selected for their accuracy and finished as works of art. Each receiver was polished to mirror gold, engraved with scrollwork, and often inlaid with silver and nickel detail. They weren't built for soldiers, They were built for the men who financed them. One such rifle appeared at Rock Island Auction in 2023, its surface untouched, its original case colors glowing after more than a century. When the gavel fell, the price reached $1,035,000, setting a record for the model and proving that beauty could be as valuable as firepower. The Model 1866, one of 1,000, marks the moment Winchester stopped merely arming the frontier and began defining its image. It's the golden bridge between invention and artistry. A rifle meant not to conquer the West, but to crown it. Number 3. John Wayne's Winchester Model 1894. By the dawn of the 20th century, no rifle was more American than the Winchester Model 1894. It was the cowboy's rifle of choice, rugged, dependable, and as much a part of the frontier image as the spurs and saddle. But one particular 1894 would transcend the West entirely, carried not by a soldier or outlaw, but by the man who personified both, John Wayne. Wayne's well-worn carbine appeared in a dozen classic films, from Stagecoach to True Grit, its large loop lever spinning through frame after frame. The rifle itself was a working prop, customized for Wayne's quick handling, its stock shortened and lever enlarged to suit his signature spin-cock move. By the time he made True Grit in 1969, that very gun had become as recognizable as the actor himself. When the rifle surfaced from his estate in 2011, authenticated by studio records and family documentation, collectors knew it was the ultimate piece of Hollywood and frontier history combined. The final sale price, $1.26 million, proved that myth and memory could add more value than gold engraving ever could. Unlike the rifles locked away for royalty, this Winchester earned its legend in front of the camera, scarred, scuffed, and immortalized in film. It didn't conquer the frontier, it preserved it, one frame at a time. Number 2, Theodore Roosevelt's Winchester Model, 1894. Most Winchester rifles were carried by settlers and scouts, but a few, fewer than a dozen, were built for America's elite, engraved and personalized by the factory for men who shaped the frontier in policy as well as legend. Among them, none is more famous than the Winchester Model 1894 presented to President Theodore Roosevelt. Roosevelt's connection to the Winchester was lifelong. He carried one through the Dakotas as a rancher, took another to Cuba with the Rough Riders, and later used a pair on his African safari. But the presentation 1894 was special. A deluxe model chambered in .30 WCF, engraved with Roosevelt's initials, fitted with deluxe checkering, and finished in silver and gold. It was built not for the hunt, but as a symbol of American excellence, gifted to a man who embodied it. That rifle reappeared in 2022 at Rock Island Auction, its provenance verified through Winchester ledgers and Roosevelt's own correspondence. The hammer fell at $1.265 million, placing it among the most valuable Winchesters ever sold. This wasn't a battlefield gun or a showpiece for profit. It was the personal emblem of the man who carried the frontier spirit into the 20th century. Roosevelt's Winchester stands for the same idea he lived by, that power, handled with purpose, could forge history. Only one rifle in the world surpasses it in rarity, a gun that didn't just define the West, but started it. Number 1, Henry Rifle Serial Number 1, the first of the repeaters. In 1860, in a small New Haven workshop, an American gunsmith pulled the lever on a prototype that would change warfare forever. The rifle in his hands was the first Henry ever built, the gun that turned black powder muskets into history and repeating fire into reality. It looked ordinary, brass frame, octagonal barrel, walnut stock. But hidden in its design was the birth of every lever-action rifle that followed. For decades, collectors argued which Henry truly came first. The answer was sealed on a single receiver, stamped simply Serial Number 1. Built by the New Haven Arms Company, it was likely used for early trials and exhibitions before disappearing into private hands. When it finally resurfaced, complete with original finish and matching components, It drew global attention from historians and museums alike. At Rock Island Auction in 2022, that rifle sold for $1,265,000, the highest verified price ever paid for a Henry. The sale wasn't about decoration. It was about origin, the first successful lever gun ever produced, the spark that lit the entire Winchester dynasty. The rifle itself is plain, even austere, but within its brass and steel lies the first successful marriage of invention and reliability, the foundation of the repeating age. Every Winchester, every Sharps, every frontier legend traces back to this single piece of metal. From the battlefield rifles of the Civil War to the gilded presentation pieces of presidents, they all began here, with serial number 1. It stands as the most important rifle ever built, not for what it destroyed, but for what it created. From the engraved masterpieces of the Gilded Age to the battle-scarred arms of the frontier, these rifles tell the true story of the American West, designed by hand, carried through history, and still worth more than gold. Each one reminds us that history isn't written in ink, it's written in steel. And though the frontier is gone, its echoes live on, in the legends, the craftsmanship, and the guns that outlived them all. If you want to uncover more of the truth behind the myth, stick around. The next story might be even rarer than the rifles that made this one.